there is a silent epidemic spreading across the modern world. It doesn't make headlines every day. It doesn't leave visible scars. Yet, it affects millions of people, regardless of age, gender, culture, or social status. It is loneliness. At some point in life, almost everyone experiences loneliness. We feel it after losing someone we love. We feel it when moving to a new city, changing schools, starting a new job, or simply realizing that the people around us don't truly understand who we are. Loneliness can appear in a crowded room just as easily as it can in an empty apartment. But what if loneliness isn't the enemy we've been taught to fear? What if the experience that causes so much pain also holds the potential for profound transformation? Today, we will explore the psychology of loneliness and discover how isolation can become solitude, and how solitude can become one of the greatest sources of strength, wisdom, and inner peace. To understand loneliness, we must first recognize that being alone and feeling lonely are not the same thing. A person can spend an entire day by themselves and feel completely content. Another person can spend every moment surrounded by friends, co-workers, and family members and still feel deeply lonely. Psychologists define loneliness as the distressing feeling that arises when our social relationships do not meet our emotional needs. In other words, loneliness is not about the quantity of human connection. It is about the quality of connection. Human beings are social creatures. Throughout evolution, belonging to a group increased our chances of survival. Being rejected or excluded could mean danger or even death. Because of this, our brains developed powerful systems that alert us whenever we feel disconnected from others. Loneliness acts like emotional pain. Just as physical pain warns us about injury, loneliness signals a lack of meaningful connection. The problem is that in today's world, many of us are more connected than ever before, yet feel increasingly isolated. We have social media platforms with thousands of followers. We have instant messaging, video calls, and endless opportunities to communicate. Yet, many people report feeling more lonely than previous generations. Why? Because connection is not communication. You can exchange hundreds of messages without feeling understood. You can receive thousands of likes without feeling valued. You can constantly interact with others without revealing your authentic self. True connection requires vulnerability. It requires honesty. It requires the courage to be seen. And many people spend years hiding behind carefully constructed identities, afraid that if others knew who they truly were, they would be rejected. Ironically, the more we hide, the lonelier we become. But loneliness does not only come from a lack of relationships. Sometimes it emerges during periods of personal growth. As we evolve, our values change. Our interests shift. our perspectives deepen. We begin to outgrow environments, habits, and even relationships that once felt comfortable. This transition can feel incredibly lonely. The old version of ourselves no longer fits, yet the new version has not fully emerged. We find ourselves standing between two worlds. Psychologists often refer to this as a liminal space, a psychological threshold between what was and what will be. Many people mistakenly interpret this stage as failure. In reality, it is often a sign of transformation. Consider the caterpillar inside a cocoon. Before becoming a butterfly, it enters a period of complete isolation. From the outside, nothing seems to be happening. Yet internally, an extraordinary process of change is unfolding. Human growth often works the same way. Periods of loneliness can become incubators for self-discovery. When external noise fades, we begin to hear our own thoughts more clearly. When distractions disappear, deeper questions emerge. Who am I? What do I truly want? What kind of life am I creating? These questions can be uncomfortable. In fact, many people spend years avoiding them. They fill every quiet moment with entertainment, scrolling, notifications, and endless distractions. Silence feels threatening because silence reveals what has been buried beneath the surface. Yet, growth begins where distraction ends. This brings us to an important distinction. Isolation is the absence of connection. Solitude is the presence of self. Isolation feels like abandonment. Solitude feels like freedom. Isolation drains energy. Solitude restores energy. Isolation creates suffering. Solitude creates understanding. The external circumstances may look identical. A person sitting alone in a room could be experiencing either isolation or solitude. The difference lies in their relationship with themselves. Many individuals fear being alone because they have never learned how to enjoy their own company. From childhood, we are taught how to interact with others, but rarely taught how to build a healthy relationship with ourselves. As a result, solitude can initially feel uncomfortable. When we stop running from ourselves, unresolved emotions begin to surface. Old regrets, unhealed wounds, unspoken fears, hidden insecurities. For some, this experience feels overwhelming. But psychologists have discovered something fascinating. Avoiding difficult emotions often strengthens them. Facing them gradually weakens their power. The emotions we resist persist. The emotions we accept begin to transform. This is one reason why practices such as meditation, mindfulness, journaling, and self-reflection have become increasingly popular. These practices teach us how to sit with ourselves without judgment. They help us develop emotional resilience. They allow us to observe our thoughts without becoming controlled by them. Over time, solitude stops feeling empty. It starts feeling meaningful. Many of history's greatest thinkers understood this principle. Philosophers, writers, artists, scientists, and spiritual leaders often sought periods of solitude. Not because they hated people, not because they wanted to escape society, but because solitude provided a space for clarity. It allowed them to think independently. It gave them room to create. It helped them connect with something deeper than external approval. The modern world constantly encourages us to seek validation from outside ourselves. We chase recognition. We chase attention. We chase achievement. We chase acceptance. Yet, lasting peace rarely comes from external sources. It emerges when we develop internal stability. When we become comfortable with ourselves, our relationships begin to change as well. Instead of seeking others to complete us, we connect with others from a place of wholeness. Instead of using relationships to escape loneliness, we use relationships to share our lives. This shift is transformative. Healthy solitude does not make us less social. It makes us more authentic. We stop fearing rejection because our sense of worth no longer depends entirely on external approval. We stop pretending to be someone else. We stop performing. We start living. Of course, this does not mean we should isolate ourselves indefinitely. Human connection remains essential. The goal is not to choose solitude over relationships. The goal is to develop both. To cultivate meaningful relationships, while maintaining a strong connection with ourselves. To enjoy companionship without depending on it for our identity. To appreciate moments of togetherness and moments of aloneness. Balance is the key. If you are currently experiencing loneliness, remember this. Your loneliness is not proof that you are broken. It is not evidence that you are unworthy of love. It is not a permanent sentence. It is a signal, a message, an invitation. Sometimes that invitation is encouraging you to reconnect with others. Sometimes it is encouraging you to reconnect with yourself. The challenge is learning to listen carefully enough to understand which path is needed. The journey from isolation to solitude is not always easy. There will be moments of discomfort, moments of uncertainty, moments when silence feels louder than noise. But beyond those moments lies an extraordinary discovery. The realization that your relationship with yourself shapes every other relationship in your life. When you learn to enjoy your own company, loneliness loses much of its power. When you learn to trust yourself, fear begins to fade. When you learn to embrace solitude, you uncover a source of strength that has been within you all along. Perhaps the greatest paradox of loneliness is this: the moment we stop running from being alone is often the moment we feel most connected. Connected to ourselves, connected to life, connected to the present moment. And from that place of connection, we can build relationships that are deeper, healthier, and more meaningful than ever before. So, the next time loneliness visits your life, don't immediately view it as an enemy. Instead, ask what it might be trying to teach you. Within that question may lie the beginning of a profound transformation. A transformation from isolation to solitude, from emptiness to understanding, from fear to freedom, and ultimately, from loneliness to inner peace. This is Silent Mind Academy. Remember, sometimes the most important conversation you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. And in the quiet moments you once feared, you may discover the person you were always meant to become.